G'day, podcast listener. Wait until the end of this podcast and that will really pay off. But while you get to the end of this podcast, we're going to talk about infomercials. We're going to talk about Christmas movies and what makes them great, and maybe a little bit about the Santaland Diaries. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called J.J. Meets World.
Tucker, I recently was reminded of something from my past that I wanted so much, and I remember begging my parents for it. And my sister begged my parents as well. And looking back on it, I realized how ridiculous it is that we both wanted a portable grill called the Red Devil. And we must have seen the infomercial for this 100 times. And it was like a red wok-shaped grill that you could move like easily. Like they showed people cooking at the beach. They showed people cooking like at campsites and at tailgating. And it came with a domed top. And this is the thing that set the Red Devil aside from other grills. Because of its concave shape, you could actually bake in it. So people made cakes inside of it. So you can make eggs and bacon, you can make steaks and pork chops and ribs, but you could also bake a cake in the Red Devil. Now, here's the problem with the Red Devil grill. So we wanted it so bad. I mean, Tucker, I can't tell you how badly we wanted this grill so much. It's just insane. Well, let me tell you why it's a good thing we didn't get it.
Well, did you think that it was going to be endless cake if you had it? Was that the whole thing?
I think the thought was that the people inside of the infomercial were having so much fun that if we got the grill, we would then have fun, regardless of what we made on it.
So it was really their joy you wanted.
So let me tell you about the Red Devil grill and what happened to it. Walmart and Child Protective Services. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. So the Consumer Product Safety Commission is like, hey guys, this is dangerous for children and everything like that. So here's the deal. In cooperation with the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, Walmart stores of Bentonville, Arkansas is recalling about 60,000 Red Devil gas grills sold at Walmart. About 155,000 of these grills were manufactured and are the manufacturers out of business. So they're only getting to this recall in May of 2002. Now, I wanted one of these grills as late as 2002. So at the time of the recall, I wanted one. The product's design allows consumers to light the grill at an air intake tube instead of at the burner. Though the grill appears to function normally, gas inside the air intake tube, the tube ignites. The tube can reach temperatures of up to 750 degrees Fahrenheit and present a burn hazard to consumers. In some earlier grills, the heat produced by lighting the grill at the air intake tube damaged the plastic support piece and caused the grill to fall to the ground. When it collapses, flames from the grill can burn nearby consumers and ignite surrounding combustibles. So part of the grill is plastic, and when that plastic piece melts, it turns into a flamethrower.
That's amazing.
There have been 44 reports of consumers suffering burns to legs, hands, fingers, including reports of some third-degree burns after the grill collapsed during use. More than 1,000 consumers returned their grills to the manufacturer because the grills collapsed. There have been no reports of incidents or injuries involving those sold by Walmart, just in case you want to know. These metal gas grills have a tripod stand. They have a logo on the label, they have a logo on the label of the lid, and the grill base showing a devil cooking at the grill with the writing "Red Devil." So I mean, it fits, right? It's on brand. The lid also reads "The Portable Outdoor Kitchen." The black plastic base above the tripod reads "Quantum Homewares." Components sold at the grill include a heat plate, an oversized skillet with handles, a table-safe serving trivet, and carrying totes. They were all manufactured in Hong Kong. Quantum and E4L sold these grills directly to consumers through television infomercials from about May 1998 through January 1999 for $160. The recall only includes grills sold at Walmart, but clearly all of the Red Devils were just that, devils. Tucker, I wanted this in the worst way. I'm telling you, like, I wish, in fact, I don't know if it exists, but maybe on YouTube someone's uploaded the Red Devil Grill commercial. And if they have, I think you would be, there's worse ways to spend a Saturday afternoon. I can tell you that much.
You know, as I'm collecting old commercials and stuff, I'll keep an eye out for the Red Devil.
Oh, good. The Red Devil Grill infomercial, 9 minutes and 11 seconds long.
Yeah.
So 9/11, right, I mean, come on. There's a lot of inside symbolism for this. But you can watch it.
So you thought like your mom was going to make you cake while you were camping?
Yeah. I mean, I thought that I could do just about anything with this. I thought because we got the grill, now there's no excuse not to go camping, not to seek out a coastal beach. There's just so many opportunities for us to go to some place that's amazing.
I always remember when, like, a kid's house, they'd have an ice cream maker. And I was like, what? You can generate your own ice cream? And to me, I thought, well, why would you ever go buy ice cream? You can just make it in this machine.
Have you ever made homemade ice cream?
I think I did once when I was a kid, but I really can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, you need a lot of stuff to be handy. At one point, you might as well just go to the store and get the ice cream that's already been made.
Dude, I am such an ice cream fanatic. I went overboard with my ice cream consumption over like the past 2 months. And now that it's cold out, it doesn't sound nearly as enticing. But man, if for me, like a big bowl of ice cream that is of a soft serve consistency, nothing is better. That is the dessert for me, period.
Just some delicious ice cream for you, huh?
Oh my goodness. And I mean,
what kind of ice cream are you getting? What kind of ice cream are you getting?
Well, okay, so for the longest time now, my routine has been to pick up a little pint of Kemp's, and I'll just pick different flavors different times. So like they've got one that's like apple cinnamon, that's amazing. They've got a blueberry cheesecake that's unbelievably good. They've got an amazing chocolate and peanut butter one. And yeah, I just like whatever, every day after work, you're like, oh, what ice cream am I feeling today? And I just go pick one up for like $4. And then it's, I think, pretty much the same amount that you get in like a large Blizzard. And then I would just kind of let it sit out just for a little bit, so get a little melty versus like super hard, and then get it to the consistency of soft serve and eat that.
Interesting. So
good.
I was not expecting that detailed of an answer. I thought you might be like, oh, French vanilla. I like it.
No, I mean, French vanilla is great too.
So did you ever purchase anything off the television? Do you ever remember like a QVC or an infomercial purchase that took place in your house?
No, really, I don't. Yeah, no, you know what? Actually, let me take that back. One just came to my mind. My dad's second wife, she did buy, what was it called? Oh, was it the ab roller?
Oh, yes.
It was the device that was supposed to help you do sit-ups, basically.
And it was like it was a wheel with like two like pegs on the side, and so you could go back and forth really easily.
Yep. I remember those infomercials on it. And then one day we had an ab roller.
So we didn't buy a lot of things off of TV, but I remember one thing specifically is my dad, one day a package came to our house and it was addressed to my dad. And I'm like, well, that's weird because my dad doesn't even get regular mail. And so we put it on the table, and I waited for my dad to get home, and he opened it, and it was a 6 CD set of like America's top blues joint songs. And so and I was like, maybe my dad had one too many MGDs, but he got his credit card out, called it in, and got this like, the sound of American blues, and it was all like Roadhouse. It was like Roadhouse music, essentially. And that was in my dad's vehicle until we finally turned it in. Like, it was a leased vehicle. And when we finally got rid of it after his death, we finally took the 6-disc changer out. And that was the only thing that was in the changer were these CDs. Yeah. And he kept the cases in the glove compartment just in case he needed to reference the name of a song. That being said, we have lost the art of the infomercial. Now we live for influencers, right? So people who are like, oh my gosh, I tried this brand new hairspray and it's so good. You're going to love it as well. I'm Khloe Kardashian.
Yeah, but you know what? They cut to the chase, and I appreciate that. And it's not, it's not a live studio audience.
Sir, I do not appreciate that because I love the pageantry that is the infomercial. There's a magic to the way they did that, and nobody did the infomercial better than Ron Popeil. Ron Popeil, whose father was an inventor and invented the pocket fisherman and the Veg-O-Matic. Ron Popeil, growing up in Chicago, saw all of these salesmen who were trying to sell their wares on the street corners, by being like, hey, excuse me, sir, you look like a man who, values his time. This is the button gun. If you ever pop a button on your shirt and you can't get home for your wife to sew it on, why not put button back on your shirt? And he saw kind of the salesmanship that these guys had, and he'd see them collect a crowd. And so when it came time for him to figure out how to sell the, what was the first thing? Not the Veg-O-Matic, the Chop-O-Matic, which essentially was a bunch of blades on a spring-loaded top, and you would push the top down and it would rotate around while also chopping down. And so you could chop a whole onion with this in no time. And the biggest problem that the door-to-door salesman, which was the way you sold products like this back in the day, the only way that they could, or the only complaint they had is, this chops vegetables so fast, I can't carry enough vegetables with me door to door to show people how great it is. Because I can chop an onion in 10 seconds. I can chop, a pepper up in 5 seconds. And then I might go to 100 houses in a day. That's a ton of onions and peppers.
Did your mom ever let a door-to-door salesperson in?
No.
To give you a thing? My mom did once.
Really?
And I have the only thing I remember about it was the guy was selling, it was like knives and scissors and like a bunch of cutlery stuff or whatever. And he took a pair of the scissors and he cut a penny in half with it and then gave me half the penny. He goes, there you go, sport. I got half of a cent from the guy. And I just remember he had a bad comb over. But that's all I can really remember. But I also once got suckered into when I was dating a previous girlfriend, and she was like, hey, do you want to go over to my friend's house? She said there's some sort of like a thing she wants us to see. I'm like, okay. And I ended up getting suckered into sitting through like an hour-long sales pitch where this guy would come in and would cook you dinner. But while he's cooking you dinner, you have to sit and listen to him give his sales pitch about how the stuff that he's cooking your dinner with is like really good and you should buy it. And so then like, it was just like, God damn it. I got to sit here and watch this guy do this whole pitch and then eat some food I don't want. And then listen to this other guy whose place we're at tell him that no, he's not going to buy anything. Ugh, it's just like, but here's the thing. I would also never want to be the salesperson, right? Like to have to go through a big song and dance like that to try to get someone on the hook for, just $200 and you'll have this entire set of really nice stuff, right? Which is probably not nice at all.
And that's why I think the infomercial is so genius, because you don't have to look a human in the eyes. You were just sucking them in by the fact that the regular programming for that day has ended, and now it's the half hour, oh, but wait, there's more. And there were a couple beyond the Red Devil that I felt like I needed in my life. One of them was the Popeil food dehydrator. And the reason I wanted the food dehydrator is the promise was you can make fruit roll-ups at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my mom telling me once that fruit roll-ups are too expensive. We can't get them. And truth be told, have you looked at the price of a fruit roll-up, considering how much you get out of it?
No.
The price is staggering. I mean, it's just shocking when you look at an ounce to dollar ratio. So I thought if we get this, and then they said for $3 a pound, you could make your own jerky. And I thought I could be running a jerky operation. So I really wanted to get one of these food dehydrators, and my friend Andrew got one down the hall or down the street. Now, here's the thing about the Ronco food dehydrator. It took forever.
Yeah.
It didn't just, it's not like, okay, in 20 minutes, we'll have fruit roll-ups. It was like 4 days later.
Really?
Yeah. Oh God, it was awful. I remember
Jesus.
sitting there waiting, and they're like, "Yeah, it takes a long time." And like, there's 5 or 6 trays that you put onto it, and so the more trays, the more stuff it's dehydrating out of there. Stuff doesn't want to give up its liquids. Whether it's banana chips or beef, delicious beef jerky. So I wanted to get the Ronco food dehydrator. I also wanted to get the Ronco Showtime rotisserie. Now, this is one I must have watched 30 times. And so it's a small rotisserie that has an electrical heating element inside. So turkeys would roast themselves, chicken. They had a flat thing that you could cook fish on. And the thing is the genius of Ron Popeil is he had great phrases. So he goes, but wait, there's more. That's a Ron Popeil original.
Oh, really?
Also, this is where he coined the phrase, set it and forget it. And he used to go, set it, and the audience would go, and forget it. So when I would watch this at 3:00 in the morning on the USA Network, he would say, set it, and I'd go, and forget it. And I could remember hearing my dad going, shut the hell up downstairs. Because I got really, really deep into the Ronco world. The other thing, now, Tucker, you actually have probably seen this. This is parodied quite a bit. He invented a thing called the Mr. Microphone, which was a short-ranged radio transmitter that looked just like a microphone, and it would broadcast over an FM radio. So if you were within 30 feet of an FM radio, you could take over the FM signal on one particular frequency, and whatever you were saying would then be amplified through the radio. It's famous because there's there's an ad where a convertible rolls past with the FM radio turned up, and this young kid looks to it, and there's these babes in the car, right? And so he grabs his Mr. Microphone and he goes, hey, good looking, we'll be back to pick up you later. And yeah, I mean, it was very, very 80s. But in The Simpsons, there's an episode where Homer is, I believe he's starting to do, he's doing a vigilante thing. And he's no, I'm sorry, that's the rap one. No, the one that parodies it is Bart he gets one of these microphones and he loses it down the well, and he pretends to be in the well. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Great episode. And then at one point, Santa's little helper, his dog, is chewing on the microphone, and the news is imagining that he's turned into some kind of werewolf boy. It's great. So there's a bunch of stuff that I always wanted to get, and I will tell you, I think that Ron Popeil was a genius. He ended up going bankrupt.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in 2018, Ronco filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and then in 2018 changed its bankruptcy filing from Chapter 11 to Chapter 7, which is a full liquidation and shutdown. So when you file for Chapter 11, it essentially gives you time to restructure your debts without accruing more. But Chapter 7 is like, nope, we locked up the door and we sold the copier and everyone's fired.
How many different chapters are there?
Well, I mean, it goes up to 11 at least. I don't know how many full chapters of bankruptcy there are, but there must be
like bankruptcy. Chapter 1.
Chapter 1. It was a sultry evening in Dallas. Public defender Cole Meany.
Yeah, from what I hear, chapter 1's just all exposition.
Yeah. I don't know if there's like a chapter like 56, and then by chapter 56, it's you owe one particular guy money, and if his name's Ronnie, the federal government will protect you because someone had a cousin named Ronnie who's a real jerk.
So with the was it a turkey roaster? Is that what it was?
The Showtime rotisserie, the Ronco Showtime rotisserie could cook a turkey rotisserie style, or 2 chickens, or fish. You could put like 4 racks of ribs in there at the same time and it would cook them all. And it had an easy to remove grease trap at the bottom, so cleanup was easy. And all you did, you set the time, you set the temperature, because Tucker, you set it
and then forget it.
That's correct.
So was the idea, do you think, that you got excited because in your mind, here's a device that is solving a problem we must have at the home. And if we have it, suddenly doing this thing is just easy all the time. It's like it's getting into the future, right? It's more, it's one step closer to the Jetsons.
I think
or was it you wanted to eat the food that was on it, because we've covered like beef jerky and fruit roll-ups. You could make,
chicken,
turkey or chicken whenever you want.
So,
and you could bake a cake whenever you're at the lakes and having s'mores. Like, Mom, you know how we used to do s'mores, but now we do a cake all the time?
Be like, honey, the grill is shooting flames at us. It's 750 plus degrees. I think that the reason I probably wanted it more than anything was because there was some neglect in my house. This would make it so that I could cook things more easily, right? Like when you are a 14-year-old, how are you supposed to know when chicken is done if you are cooking a chicken, right?
Yeah. I still struggle with understanding when it's done.
Yeah. Now, that being said, I loved ribs as a kid. I friggin' loved ribs. And so the idea that like all I've got to do is put the ribs in this machine and then the machine will give me cooked ribs back. That was great. I do think this. So at one point we did not get the show. And the thing about the Showtime rotisserie is it's like a really big microwave is the size. And so it spins parallel to your countertop. Okay. Does that make sense?
And they still sell them.
Yeah. Oh, it's still, I mean, like when they filed for Chapter 7, a company bought out all the rights to the Ronco products, and there's still a bunch of them. I still think they make Pocket Fisherman too. So we ended up getting a rotisserie. My Aunt Deb, previous guest Deb Dawson, purchased a rotisserie at like Marshall Fields and loved it, but this one was perpendicular to the countertop, so it looked like a little canister that you put on your, like a little like propane tank you put on your countertop, and so the chicken would be up and down like it's standing on its hind legs.
Well, that's what like these are all looking like to me.
The Ronco one.
Yeah.
No.
Were there
No. But it flips. It cooks. It flips them. How do I say it? Like the chicken, the picture you're looking at, the legs would eventually go up and over like they're doing somersaults.
Right. Exactly.
Right, that's how it spins. This one, it's spun in a circle like a ballerina.
Oh, I see now. You rotate. Okay, it rotated that way. Got it.
And it never was as magical. And certainly you couldn't fit 2 chickens in there. It just wouldn't happen. By the way, what's the going rate for a Ronco Showtime rotisserie?
We're looking at anything. I mean, there's some used ones on eBay.
I'm not using a used rotisserie. That is ridiculous.
That's right. Looks like on JeffBezos.com, anywhere between 160 and 220. There's a Ronco Rare 1999 Ronco Showtime rotisserie, never used, for 285 on Mercury.com. I don't know what this is.
That sounds made up. It sounds pretty made up to me. I know that the more modern ones, like they look a little sleeker and they make one out of stainless steel and it's like very digital programmy, but there's something about those old school ones that I really like.
It says it's a barbecue as well.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a friend who wanted to get into the world of air frying, because the air fryer is a pretty amazing device that we all are enjoying right
Yep.
now.
Oh yeah.
And so she goes, hey, on Prime Day, it's an air fryer and a pressure cooker and a crock pot. And it's got, like these 25 uses all in one. And I said, it's going to be an awful air fryer. She goes, what do you mean?
Oh sure.
And I said, these are all products that are very specific in their design. And you can't just mash them all together into one thing and expect it to work. I said, it probably does everything meh, but it doesn't do any of them great. So, and I know you're trying to save space on your countertop, but you should have gone for an air fryer and then a slow cooker and then a pressure cooker. Just done it like that.
Mm. See, I just wish I want an all-in-one. I want one device that does everything. That's what I want.
You know what that device is called?
What?
A stove. Your stove
It does all of those things?
that.
It does air frying?
Does air frying. Because you've got a stove oven combo.
That's true.
And really when it comes down to it, all air frying is like, I think it's like convection technology. It's moving,
Right.
Essentially it's moving hot air around rather than
Right,
just
right.
like keeping it in one spot.
Right.
But the nice thing about the air fryer is you don't have to heat a whole oven, right? Like it's
Right,
ultra
exactly.
compact and like you're taking care of business.
Yes. And it's amazing for reheating stuff or frozen stuff. Or just like, hey, let's see what happens when this gets air fried. I've done that a lot.
There was a guy who, it was a British guy who wore a blue shirt and like red suspenders and he had a bow tie. And he was another really great infomercial pitch man as well. And he's like, Peg, you won't believe what I'm about to tell you next. And she's like, what is it, Charles? And he goes, not only does this knife self-sharpen itself, but it also is good for murdering orphans. And I just remember this guy could sell me anything. And then the ShamWow guy came around with his little his little earphone microphone piece. And then he turned out to be a total and complete douchebag. The ShamWow guy, I think he ended up, he did some time after that. And remember how much people love ShamWow? And I'm like,
I'm trying to remember what happened to him now, what it was.
It was just, and I was like, dude, all it is just an absorbent rag. Like it's okay. So the rag sucks up liquid, so it does its one job. Like
it's supposed to be like the most amazing liquid of all time.
Right. And I don't think
Vince
it is.
Offer. His name is Vince Offer.
There's no way his real name last name is Offer. Offer. That is ridiculous. Like, do I have an offer for you? There's no way. No way his last name was
here
Offer.
we go. I guess his real name is Offer Shlomi, and then it's better known as Vince Offer or Vince Shlomi because he's Israeli American.
He's Israeli American, huh?
Yeah. I mean, and he's looks like still around, I guess.
But didn't?
Oh yeah, I guess he got sued. Oh, he got caught with a prostitute, I think.
He got caught with a prostitute. Huh? Oh no. Okay. He got caught with a 26-year-old lady of the night, or a soiled dove, as the old Westerns would say, in Miami Beach, Florida, after a physical altercation. The police reported that the woman had bitten onto Offer's tongue and refused to let go, at which point Offer began beating her and left her with lacerations and fractures. Police later released photos of the bloodied Offer, hotel room, and battered woman. Prosecutors later declined to file formal charges against either person. When Offer spoke of the arrest, he stated, "It probably saved my life." Wow.
Man, Wikipedia for occupation.
Yeah.
He's got salesman, screenwriter, film director, film producer, comedian, and editor.
Editor?
Yeah.
Well, good. It's good to know he's working on his own projects, right? I'm telling you, man, like there's something a little magical about a good infomercial pitch. And like, there's also like the kind of chubbier redheaded woman, like who was always cooking with the copper pans and showed you how nothing would burn to the bottom. I had mad respect for her too. I thought she was a great pitch woman, and they parodied her in Gremlins 2. They had a television show called Microwave with Marge that was being done in the building that the Gremlins take over, and she was parodied by a woman with a big red curly wig, and then the Gremlins show up on her cooking show and mess up her tuna noodle casserole while she does bean dip bologna roll-ups.
That sounds disgusting.
Yeah, and the whole point of the show was it's only food that you cook in the microwave, which they're making fun of, that the fact that like cooking channels, like at that point, cable was just hitting. And so they had like all of these funny background channels, but those are very real now. Like there are people who are making major bank on TikTok showing people how to cook, and they're cooking solely using an air fryer or solely using a microwave, or like here's a one pan dish that you can cook in the sun if the temperature's over 80 degrees.
Yeah, well, you know who needs that? Me.
You're the prime demo.
Oh yeah, I'm like just need make food for face. Where that like that's what it's at when it comes to food.
Let me ask you a real question, and I'm not trying to be silly or goofy here, but could you ever bring yourself to eat something that has human flesh in it?
No.
What if you found out afterwards?
Well, what do you mean? What if? Like, what's the question then?
No, I'm saying like, okay, so because this is this is the discussion that I had yesterday. I could, if you put like goulash in front of me and you said, hey, just so you know, 10% of the meat inside of this is human meat. I couldn't eat it.
No, if you, it wouldn't. You could be like 0.5%. I'd be like, no, what happened?
Right.
Why is there people in this?
Yeah, no percent. I don't know why I said a percentage, but let's just say there's some. But
it's like on the label at the grocery store.
But if you put that same goulash in front of me and didn't tell me it was human meat, and I ate it and I enjoyed it, and then afterwards, like, hey, guess what? 6% of that was human meat. I
would vomit.
I don't think I would vomit. I just think I'd be like, oh, friggin' sick, man.
Yeah, I would vomit.
You'd vomit?
That would be too much. That'd be too much for me.
What if I told you it was someone you really didn't like?
That would be worse.
Okay, someone you really do like.
That would be even worse.
Okay.
I don't want to know them.
It's a person you've never met, but they knew you. And they actually asked for it. They're like, listen, I'm on my way out. I want you to feed a little bit of me to Tucker Lucas. I've never met him personally, but I subscribe to his Vimeo channel, and I really like what he does, and I would love to nourish him so that he can go on and do creative things.
So you're saying you're talking about this yesterday? Did this come up like on the radio or something? Was this a KFGO topic?
Yes, right. No, of course not.
Were you and Amy talking about this?
It started off with like, "Hey, Amy, how was your weekend?"
Was Amy like, JJ, have you ever eaten human?
Have you ever eaten human flesh? I would definitely be the person to ask that if someone's going to ask it. But no, this came up because yesterday I had an experience. And this was part of the experience, not actual human flesh, but the question of whether or not cannibalism is legal.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say this: previous guest Mike Rezel put together a living board game, and I got to be a part of it, and I had a real blast. I had a ton of fun. I felt a lot of pressure, and I'm glad that I wasn't I got out alive, I guess is what it is. Did you enjoy, and you got to videotape it? Did you enjoy videotaping it?
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, I had gone through it once before, an interactive game that Rezel has made, and it was a lot of fun. And I know that he wanted to get you through it because you're such a good sport at playing games that it would be a really good session to use to document it, since he put all this work into it. But I mean, that thing's been up for like 2 years now.
When I got home last night, I made a lot of notes to myself, And I was like, I gotta share these with Mike, like, because I think like some feedback, because like my feedback isn't you should do this instead of this, but like, hey, I think that you could actually expand this. These were the moments I found to be the most thrilling.
Mhm.
And clearly everyone's game experience is different, which is how it's supposed to be. But
Right.
I was on a flight recently playing a game of Monopoly on my phone, and there was a younger gentleman sitting across the row from me, and I was playing Monopoly, and he goes, "Hey, what app is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's a Hasbro app. It's got Clue, it's got Monopoly, and like Risk, and like two other games." He goes, "Oh, okay." And he said, like, it's a great game to play because it lasts long, and it's got a little bit of interactivity. And I said, yeah, it's you play with 3 AI characters when you don't have any kind of internet connection. I've played with my friends before, referencing you, Tucker. And
Mhm.
he said, "Oh, okay. So how's this work?" Because the app that he had, you actually shake your phone. It uses the gimbal
Right.
inside of your phone. I was like the app that I used to use with that, like no more. I'm never gonna like it. It just is. It drove me nuts
The novelty of that just goes away real quick.
immediately. And so I found one where it's all tap based, which is what I really want. And I used a term, and he laughed, and I was talking about Third Street, and
Uh-huh.
he said, "Ooh, what's that?" And I'm like, "Well, Third Street is like the third side of the board. If you consider go to free parking as First Street, or to jail to free parking as Second Street, free parking to go to jail as Third Street, and then go to jail back to go as Fourth Street." And I said, it's just an easier way for me to reference like what part of the board, because wherever you're sitting, might dictate what side you think it is. But if you just use that simple, terminology, wherever you're sitting on the board, you can understand where people are buying and selling. And I realized there are people who probably just enjoy the game of Monopoly, and I no longer just enjoy it.
Oh no.
I go
No,
so
I
deep.
mean, I really want to play you again because I haven't played Monopoly in forever. But during like the height of the pandemic, you and I were playing a lot, and it was causing like problems, not really between us, but for anyone who was near either of us when we were playing, because those big swings, very big
Right.
swings.
Well, and once you figured out what my what my play style is, you
Yeah.
immediately were like, I'm going to shut down every trade possibility that you do. And so on my end, my wife is having to listen to me go like, God damn it. God, come on. Come on. And also the app we used every now and then glitched up. And so
Oh
even
God.
if you were doing great and it glitched up and all of a sudden it kicked you out, oh, I hated that.
Yeah, that was the worst. That was the worst. Yeah, those got very competitive.
I bought 2 books recently on the actor Jim Varney, creator of the Ernest P. Worrell character. And one of them is written by a guy named John Cherry. And John Cherry is actually the guy who did invent Ernest. He was part of an advertising group, and they created the character of Ernest for a couple local TV ads. And then they became like regional ads, and then they became national ads. And then John Cherry and Jim Varney agreed that they both owned the Ernest character equally. And so John Cherry directed most of the Ernest movies. Just a dude who came out of nowhere and started doing some awesome stuff. And then the other one is written by I think it's his nephew, and it's amazing. Jim Varney just was, they talked about like this guy was an actor who came prepared and never only had one take on a scene. He had constant ideas and would tell people essentially like, you roll and just yell cut. And he could improvise. He could do physical comedy. Have you ever seen Ernest Saves Christmas, Tucker?
I'm pretty sure I did. I I mean, I was a big Ernest kid. Um And we always had tapes of stuff. I'm trying to remember if we had Christmas, but I don't think of the main catalog of movies. I don't think there's any of those I've missed.
Let me ask you, like, name 5 things you associate with a Christmas movie. Like 5 things that a Christmas movie should include.
Excuse me. Oh, like I don't consider it a Christmas movie unless it has one of these things.
Well, I mean, just, like if you were saying like, okay, we're making a movie now called Tucker Saves Christmas, and you get the entire production team together. What are some things that the entire production team needs to be prepared for because they have to be included in a Christmas movie?
Oh, okay, got it. That's a really, really good question, actually, because I don't have a very strong list of like favorite Christmas movies. Although I really did love the stuff that we got to put in to Santaland Diaries when you and I did that. So here's the thing. I love Santa Claus, so Santa Claus has to be in it. There's no going forward for me for a Christmas movie that does not involve Santa Claus in some way.
Okay.
I'm really, really excited for this David Harbour movie because I think it looks fun. And I think he's a phenomenal casting choice as a Santa Claus. It's really inspired and like, yep, it completely makes sense to me why they made this movie.
Are you excited for the new Santa Clauses, the Tim Allen Santa Claus television series?
No, because the Santa Claus franchise, the Tim Allen franchise, it's very diminishing returns for me, but it drops off pretty much very sharply after the first one. Like the first movie I was really into as a kid because I wanted to, because I think when that came out, I want to say I was the age of a lot of the child actors that were playing the elves.
Yeah, I feel it was like 93 or 94, right? Like,
Yep. So I would have been 3rd grade, 4th grade when that came out. And I wanted to be a member of the Elf Liberation Front so badly. And I just thought that was such a cool thing that there were elves that had like jetpacks, and basically would go on secret missions for Santa. And growing up as I was obsessed with Santa Claus, obsessed with Santa. I think I've talked about that before here on the podcast, so I won't go through all of my Santa Claus stories, but obsessed with Santa Claus every Christmas because to me, I mean, that was to me, that was, hey, magic is real, right? Like I was really into all these fantasy stories as a kid and just the notion that there was this magical being who was going to be visiting my house that night. I just always thought, and, obviously brings a ton of presents with too.
Did you have a thing for Mrs. Claus? Like, was that ever a conversation like, Tucker, I want to do something special for you for your birthday? And you're like, well, if you could get a white wig.
So here's the thing. Yeah, actually, I when I was dating the bassoonist in high school, she said, "Hey, listen, what's like something that you're into? That like, what would you like to see me wear?" And I actually had no answer. I was like, "Oh, I'd never been asked that question before," and I just the first thing that came to mind, and this wasn't even a thing for me at all. It wasn't like an actual like fetish that I was into, but I said, I don't know, maybe like a sexy Mrs. Claus is what I said. And then like we both laughed about it. And then I thought that was it, right? Like I thought that was the end of the story. And then that Halloween, I think she dressed as that, but she like really leaned into the sexy side of it and not like the dressing as an old lady side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it became a thing for me. Like after I saw her presentation, I thought, okay, it's like unlocked. Yep, that's correct. This is on the menu for me going forward for sure.
I always tell people that if you want to watch something that is going to completely and totally throw you off guard and tell me whether or not you and I have the same affinity for humor, you need to look up Stella's, which is a
I know what you're talking
the
about. Yep.
Stella going to meet Santa Claus short film with Michael Ian Black, Michael Showalter, and David Wayne, where it's three guys writing a letter. Starts with three guys writing a letter to Santa, and it's Zach Galifianakis plays Santa Claus,
Yep.
and boy, does that thing take a turn in the middle. It is pretty amazing.
I mean, it's pretty dark to begin with. Like it starts in a pretty dark place, and then like gets darker.
But like darker, like in this weird sweet way, right? Like in a weird sweet way.
Yeah.
So that's one that you can watch. Okay, so Santa Claus is in Tucker's movie. I can't even remember. Oh, I remember when I started with this. I gotta go back to talking about Ernest Saves Christmas. Okay, so that's one thing you'd include in a Christmas movie. What's another thing?
Mistletoe. There's got to be a scene under mistletoe.
Okay, third.
You know what? I want a good old snowball fight.
Okay, so thank God you got to there because snow, right? You're talking about snowball fight, but you need snow for a snowball fight, right?
Oh, sure, right, yeah.
Ernest,
I guess that's true. I was taking that part for granted.
Right. Ernest Saves Christmas is a Christmas movie set in Orlando, Florida. So there's no snow in it, which is interesting. But going back to my Jim Varney thing, just for one moment, he has a scene in that where they need to break Santa Claus onto a movie set so that Santa can convince this new guy to become the new Santa. And Ernest has this beat up old pickup truck. And so he comes on and he's got this he's got a pair of suspenders on over like a shirt that's pretty much worn away to nothing, and then an old like timey kind of like swamp hat, and he goes, I got the snakes for the movie people, they love them poisonous snakes. And he goes, you want one for your boy? I gave my son a snake and rest his soul. And then he sings this weird old biblical hymn, and it is just a bizarre moment. And apparently like Ernest pretty much just said like, get me this costume and I'll handle the rest. And he played this swamp man, and he just played it to the teeth, you know, like the dude became the swamp man. Hey, Tucker, I was just in New York City, and guess what? One of the things I did while I was in New York City.
You saw a bunch of shows.
Oh, I did. I saw a ton of shows. I had so much fun, but I went to Macy's and I went to Santaland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
Santa was not there yet. He doesn't arrive until Thanksgiving, but they had the area all set up, and, you know, and its cutesiness, and they have this big conveyor belt with presents going through, and then they made the presents look like they're going through an x-ray machine, and you could see it was full of dollies and trains and stuff like that. And you look at it and you're like, oh, wow, you know, like this would be really magical if you were a kid, but it must be hell on earth if you are an adult trying to get through like a hot day. No, thank you. But it did feel like I was accomplishing something by going back to that spot.
You're saying for the people working there?
Like for my character in the Santaland Diaries, the guy who has to work as a photographer, as a child wrangler, there's no way I could actually do that as a job. And the space isn't big either. You know, everything in New York is much smaller than you'd imagine because there's so many people and there's so much stuff. The lines there must just be unfathomable. And now they've reopened a Toys R Us on the 7th floor, which is the floor where Santaland is. So you walk through an entire Toys R Us before you get to Santaland.
Do you remember the Phil Collins piece on the set?
Yes, because Phil Collins came to visit. That was part of one of the monologues.
Right. And we had our set designer craft this amazing just head of Phil Collins, and then ring it with, you know, brilliant lights. And an audience member eventually like got it. Like once the show was done, I forget who it was, but I think one of the audience members just like reached out to Theater B and said, "Hey, is anyone going to do anything with that thing?" And so they took it and they put it up with their decorations like outside. And so I'm wondering if they're going to do that again. I need to figure out where I could go see that thing, because I love the idea that someone's family now will have this Phil Collins head from our show, and that it'll be part of their, their history.
Well, the thing must be 5 feet tall at least.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's massive.
Also, it was triggered, right? No, the Santa Land sign was triggered to turn into Satan Land.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that show. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, even until like that 4th or 5th show. I was like, I'm a fraud. But someone asked me recently about like, hey, like, do you remember your favorite line? I don't remember any dialogue from it whatsoever. I pushed it all out of my brain.
Yeah. I bet it would take you like one read through of the script for it to start really coming back. You'd still need the script in hand, but I bet within a day you could get up to speed on a variation of it.
I don't know. I used to know all the words to the song "Shoop" by Salt and Pepper, and I still can't do that.
What was the scene that you like completely added in like the middle of the run? I remember
and I remember the problem that we had was my character is decorating this area in real time, and so there's this part where it's lights, like Christmas lights wrapped in garland, and I have to wrap it around this like a banner, like a stair banner that's at the top of a platform on either side, and there just wasn't enough dialogue to keep doing that while I was also trying to wrap this thing. And so I added this whole bit about how, isn't it messed up about how so many days of the 12 days of Christmas are bird related? And then I would essentially do like a call and response to the audience where I'm like, I would name all of them and then have them kind of like do it back, it was like a partridge in I'd go a partridge in a pear tree, 2 turtle doves, and like 6 swans a swimming, and so we'd go back, like 10 geese a laying. And so they would do some stuff back to me. And then that piece led directly into the only indication that my character was homosexual was the fact that I talk about the cute elf that, the only other elf that I seem to be attracted to. And I detail this cute boy elf who was, but he flirted with everybody. He was a tease. With all the kids. Yeah. It was a great show. I had a ton of fun with it. And I think you came on a night where my work with the sandwich, like the ballet of setting up the days of our lives and my lunch also changed pretty dramatically from the last dress to the final performance.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, at one point, and then there was a night of the Sandland Diaries, and when we recorded our episode with Monica, it was leading up to the Santa Land, so I don't think I had done it yet. But on the 6th show, I do this thing where I walk into the theater after the show has started, and I see the audience, and I get wide-eyed, and then I turn around and I hit the door and I walk out. Like I've been caught. And so I turned around so quickly and I hit the door and I walked out, but I sliced open my hand in the worst way. And I am bleeding so much that it's running down my sleeve. Right. So I decide I get out there and I start doing the setup, and then I just casually walk behind the set to where the green room is. And it must have really freaked out Leah, who is the only other human being who was there for the whole show. She was in the booth. She was the stage manager, because she's like, he's not supposed to leave stage. And I wrapped up my hand and put 4 Band-Aids on it. And then there's another point right after I had switched into my elf costume which I stripped down to on stage, that I had to go back and redo the bandages. And right after the show, I remember going and looking at it, and like it looked like I was missing fingers. There was so much blood on my hand everywhere. And there's a moment where I hold my hands open and like palms to the audience, kind of showing like the wonderment. And I remember like someone looking up and going, "Oh God." And then asking me about it afterwards, like, what's the deal with the blood on the guy's hands? And like, what was the symbol, and I was like, nope, I cut my hand open really bad. And when you're in a one-man show with no intermission, you got to figure out how to make it work, baby. Ugh, those are some good times.
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing was like, I knew that with that show, it would be like, listen, like I'll get JJ to performance, but it's his show. Like he's going to do with it what he's going to need to do with it. I mean, that's exactly, I didn't have any beef about it or anything, but I just remember I would come and I would sit out in the hallway and listen just because it was so gratifying to like hear the audience laughing at what you were doing. And so one night I get there and I sit, and I hadn't been there for like 2 weeks because that was a long run. How long was that run? 5 weeks?
Yeah, maybe not. Was it 4 weeks?
Maybe it was 4.
But we added some extra. I think we added a whole extra weekend.
Right.
So we definitely added some shows. And it's funny because
I just remember
we added enough shows, and then I literally did the last show, and then the next day I left for the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a real finite end on that show.
And your wedding had just happened, right?
Yeah, we had started rehearsals, and then 3 weeks into rehearsals, I got married, and then I was like, "Well, I'm not going to see you now until Christmas, so bye."
Was that the most stressful period of your life?
Without a doubt, without it. But in a weird way, like the most gratifying. Like I proved to myself I could do it. So one of the shows I saw when I was in New York is Beetlejuice on Broadway. And boy, if you guys get a chance to see this show, it is phenomenal. It's done so tongue in cheek, and the character of Beetlejuice, the guy who plays it, clearly like has developed a character like that's perfect. And it must be hard, right? Walking into something that Michael Keaton made famous in a film, and now people are coming to see that, but also they don't want to see you do a Michael Keaton impression.
Right.
But they break the fourth wall all the time. And this guy clearly vibes off of stuff on like that takes place in the crowd that night. Like at one point he turns to the crowd and he goes, "Thursdays, huh? What a bitch." And because a prop piece had fallen into this pit rather than like be available for them to use on stage. And the guy just did great work covering it. And it really reminded me of some of the fun of the Santaland Diaries, which was an early choice that you made that thank God you made it, which is this guy sees them. Like he sees the people who are there, and they are the other character in this play. So it's not like he's just talking into nowhere. He is talking directly to these people. So I can make eye contact when appropriate with people in the crowd and, gesture directly to them. My favorite night of all that I loved was it was a perfect storm of all the things, of my local celebrity, of weather. It was a snowy night, and so there were like 7 seats at the very front because the entire run sold out, right? You can't get a ticket to this show. It is sold out. And there's 7 open seats in the front. So clearly and we had held for an extra like 10 minutes, but it were people who said we're on our way, but we're, caught up in the storm. So they get there after the first like maybe 8 or 9 minutes of the play. And so we've really just established who I am and the, kind of the things I do. And so when they get there, the ushers are very quiet about opening the door, and they take you past the side of the stage and in front of it. So even though, we've created this world, you notice, right? You notice when that door opens and people come in, and they sit down, and I walked right over to them and I'm like, be like, hey, let's bring you guys up to speed, okay? I'm David, and I kind of give them like a truncated version of what the beginning of this show is. And then I turned to everyone else, like, I'm like, did I miss anything? And a woman in the third row goes, you love Days of Our Lives. And I said, oh, yeah, that's right. And I love Days of Our Lives. Anything else you need to do? And they're like, no. And I'm like, do you need to go to the bathroom? You need to get a drink? And they're like, no. And I'm like, fantastic. You're done being rude for the night. Here we go. And so, but I'm saying it as that character of David, right? So then for my local celebrity, so at one point I'm supposed to eat lunch, and I've got these smush chips, and I've got like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or it's just like a peanut butter sandwich. And I take a bite out of the peanut butter sandwich, and I, at the time, I was a local spokesperson for Jenny Craig. And I heard a person in the front row go, he's supposed to be on Jenny Craig. And they were so worried that I was having unregistered carbs as part of it, that I just loved. And then
that's right. I forgot your Jenny Craig face.
Right. Yeah, local spokesperson.
I forgot that moment.
Jenny Craig's Twitter account tagged me in a blog post I wrote and like praised like how great I was doing like with my jobs. Because the blog I wrote was forgive me, Jenny, for I have carbed. And they're like, we forgive you, JJ, because your transformation's amazing. You just keep doing what you're doing.
We forgive you. I like how they forgave you.
Thanks, Jenny Craig Corporate.
You received like dispensation.
But you know, like they're Jenny Craig herself was from Australia, so she's like, I forgive you, JJ. Bingo ate my baby.
That's a really good Australian accent.
Well, you know, because she's from Sydney. Like, okay, well, listen, I gotta put this one to bed because we're recording this on a school night. So Tucker, I'm gonna go and maybe order a Ronco Showtime rotisserie grill, but I will not be getting a Red Devil because those have all been recalled. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. If I were to do a one-man show again, it would be a one-man show of Driving Miss Daisy, where I play all the parts, including the car.